Very good. Now, Beverly, you can see this okay?
I can see it just fine.
Perfect. So this evening at our cocktail hour, we have a special guest with us, Beverly Whitford, and she's going to be sharing her dental hygiene career with us. And I am just going to mute. Beverly,
I
you still
believe I'm
there?
unmuted now.
Yes, you are. Good job.
Okay, tell me when you want me to begin.
Okay. And let's go to the next screen. Here we go.
Here we go. Well, first of all, I'd like to say good evening to all of you and to thank you for inviting me to speak with you this evening. Extend thanks to Bernice, who has walked me through her setting up the PowerPoint presentation and are even having a practice session. So here I am, June 10th, 1959, graduating on my 20th birthday from Forsyth School for Dental Hygienists, one of the special schools of study at Tufts University at that time. So proud to be the first person of my generation to receive education beyond high school. Let's look back at those first 20 years. Next slide. This is my mother, Lillian Fontanella Pansera. She was the oldest of 9 children in an Italian family during the Depression. Her given name was actually Lelia, Lelia, but in second grade, her teacher insisted she was spelling it wrong, that her name was Lillian, and because my grandparents spoke little in English, were very self-conscious about not really fitting into the American scene, they just let it go. And I think my mother was in her late 40s when she went for a passport, that she was informed that anything that she signed Lillian was illegal. It wasn't. It was null and void because it wasn't her given name, so she had to change it. But so she got the name. So here I am, born at home, Old Mystic, Connecticut, minutes before the doctor arrived. He declared Mom and me healthy and wouldn't take payment, telling my father, I didn't do anything, your wife did it all. She did all the work. Dad was out chopping wood. It was 7 in the morning. He heard my first boisterous cries and thought for sure this finally had to be a boy. I joined my sister Nadine, who would soon be 2. My mother was my first and lifetime mentor. With love, kindness, and endless patience, she taught my sister and me skills needed to succeed in the world. How to care for a home, cook, sew, and other handicrafts, like knitting, crocheting, tatting, embroidering, rug braiding. She had me knitting 20-stitch squares at age 3 for doll blankets. By age 12, I was sewing most of my clothing. She taught us to always tell the truth. One of her favorite sayings was, all the dirt comes out in the wash. By example, she taught me that one receives the most satisfaction by doing for others. Discrimination was unacceptable in our family. For example, I could ride a school bus to school in kindergarten, but someone needed to come get me at 11:30. Mom was the mom in the neighborhood who had her driver's license, so she would bring 3 of us home, including one boy whose family didn't make cleanliness a priority. Often after school, the old Dodge sedan would be parked in the driveway, all doors open to air it out, but Mom never complained or made that boy feel different. I was brought up with a wonderful work ethic for completing chores at home, at school, while babysitting, or working in the local general store. I was taught always do more than what is asked of you. This upbringing led me to the following definition of success, which I used throughout my association years. Quote, success is doing more than what you need to before you're asked to, not because you have to, but because you want to. It is impossible for me to provide photos and names of all who mentored me, but if you'll turn to the next slide, we will see 2 of them. And there you have Esther Wilkins on the left, and Laura Peck Fish on the right. You all know who you are, all of my mentors. I want to thank you for all you did that improved my life. Thanks for those words, Celeste. As years go by, I've become more and more thankful for all of you. And in talking on the two on the left, unfortunately, I was introduced to dentistry at age 8 with a toothache resulting in a deciduous molar extraction. A few weeks later, I was scheduled for a dental checkup. A smiling, lovely lady, all in white with a neat-looking cap and purple band, invited me into her operatory. Laura Peck, a dental hygienist, quickly became my idol. She taught me how to care for my teeth. I loved how squeaky clean they felt after she polished them. I wanted to be just like her. Years passed. Miss Peck changed employment, married her employer, and became Laura Peck Fish. Our paths crossed again my senior year of high school when I applied for a loan scholarship given by the Ladies Auxiliary to the local dental society. Nervous about being interviewed, I breathed a big sigh of relief when I entered the room to be interviewed by my Miss Peck. Incidentally, I was awarded the $500 loan scholarship, which was a big deal in that day and age. Laura Peck Fitch and I became friends. I learned that Laura was the first ADHA president from Connecticut in the late 1940s, I believe, and she was so pleased when I became the second from Connecticut. When Laura was president of CDHA, Esther Wilkins was president of the Massachusetts Dental Hygienists Association. They were both Forsyth grads like me. In the photo, Esther is presenting Laura the Esther M. Wilkins Distinguished Alumni Award. It's October 2001. It's at the annual Forsyth Alumni Brunch. And in 2007, I was awarded given that same award. Next slide, please. And now we're skipping down to family. I married my childhood sweetheart the year after I graduated from Forsyth. I always worked in general dental practices full-time until our first son arrived in 1964. It was our choice to have me be a stay-at-home, full-time mom. We welcomed our second son in 1966. During the second pregnancy then CDHA President Lynn Ironside recruited me to be Speakers Chairman for the CDHA meeting being held with CSDA at the old historic Griswold Inn in Groton. I remember I made a tent-like floral print dress to hide my girth and a brimmed hat to match. Later that year, Lynn called me to say we needed a component in Eastern Connecticut. Would I help? I knew nothing about running a meeting, but I surely knew how to fashion invitations, and organize an afternoon tea. Our circa 1786 house was undergoing restoration. So what was I to do? Where would we have it? My friend Laura Peck Fish lived in a large, lovely old home. One phone call had her polishing up her silver tea service. The tea was a great success. Nancy Brush, who just moved from California, where she had been involved in component leadership, was one of the attendees. She volunteered to be ECDHA's first president. I followed her in 1967, 68, and again in 1969, 70. So this is my family. My husband, Bob. In my lap is the younger son, Andrew Eric, who's known as Drew. And in Bob's lap is the older Randall Clark, known as Randy. Next slide, please. Somehow we've missed a slide here, but I'll wait until we get to it and go back. So now we have Boy Scouts and Special Olympics out. I met Elaine Turner Schaefer McLeod through ECDHA when my boys were 2 and 4 years old. Complaining that she worked 5.5 days a week, she persuaded me to work Saturday morning so she could have a day off. When my mother-in-law offered to babysit, I agreed to do so. Elaine and I mentored each other. She was CDHA president the year after me. We mentored each other. I loved raising our sons. As they grew older, my working days increased from 2 days to 3 days, then 4 days a week. I continued to volunteer for the school library, class trips, was a Cub Scout den mother, and in this picture, I am actually working as on the left, I'm a Boy Scout merit badge, a dentistry merit badge instructor, and that's what I'm doing. You can see the x-rays by my right elbow there. My employer first allowed me to rearrange my schedule so that I could support my son's activities, and later in 1979 to 82 to attend classes at UB 2 nights a week, working toward my baccalaureate degree, which I earned 25 years after graduating from Forsyth. In 1981, the second floor of the dental office building was renovated, and 3 dental hygiene operatories were outfitted. I was promoted to dental hygiene department manager, no increase in salary, however, and Marsha Lorenzen was hired on to be part of our dental hygiene team. I remember her first day, and she was so efficient. How sad we were when Bruce married her and stole her away from us. During that time, I also received a call from Ellen Adler's mother, Mrs. White, saying, I read your name in the paper under an ECDHA article. She said, I wonder if you could talk with my daughter, Ellen. She's a senior in high school, and I really think dental hygiene might be a good career for her. So that started my friendship with Ellen. I'm so proud of what she's become. She is the glue that has held Eastern together for years. And, you know, I just love her. We learned from each other. She's just one of my best buddies. Also that year, or during that time, I was lucky enough to be able to drive Ellen Chandler to Boston, to Forsyth, for her interview when her parents were not able to get away from work to do it. And I was just so happy to have another mentee succeeding, graduating from Forsyth, and working a really great career. Then I was recruited. In 1984, my husband and I purchased a small marine business, so I added business manager of Whitford Marine Service to my plate. My minor was a business management certificate, along with a baccalaureate in dental hygiene, so that was helpful to me. I was recruited by Washburn Dental Supply Company to fill a newly created position, which they called a preventive dentistry specialist. I decided to try wearing my business attire every day instead of a white uniform. Corporate connections led to other opportunities, marketing the Interplaque toothbrush for Dental Research Corporation, and then working for the Cheesebro Ponds Company. And next slide, please. And here we have members of the Eastern component on the left, and you see Ellen Adler in the bottom. You see Dinah on the upper left, who became like my kid sister. And on the other side, you see other CDHA members that I've worked with over the years. In the film on the right, I believe, Masha, that was your year, because I see Gail Bemis looking out behind Jody, and I believe she was president that year, making her presidential visit to CDHA. Yes, I see you shaking your head, Masha. Thank you. So that worked out very, very well. Let's go to the next slide, please. And here we have Mentodent, Unilever, the Unilever Mentodent team. The only people that I'll expect you to recognize there would be Dinah, second from the left, and me, second from the right. The other 3 hygienists, the 2 on either end, are hygienists from New Jersey, and the one in the middle is from New York State. And that was the Mentodent team. But guess what? I missed clinical hygiene. In 1987, There were no hygiene openings at my previous office where I'd been very happy, so I accepted a part-time position in another, in addition to my responsibilities to the family business. Around 1990, I accepted a position with Cheesebro Ponds Company as a consulting and working their booth at professional dental meetings. Unilever bought the dental division and introduced the Mentadent pump. My friend Dinah Alga was brought on board. We 5 hygienists worked as many as 6 major dental meetings a year throughout the country. We worked really hard, but we played hard after hours, many wonderful evenings spent together. One notable extra assignment was doing a special oral health care exhibit in Grand Central Station with Lisa Ling and Meredith Vieira, when they were both involved with The View, and an Einstein impersonator. The 2 TV stars surprised us by bringing us to front row seats as guests on The View. That was neat. They were 2 lovely women. I continued the corporate work until 2004 when Arm & Hammer bought the Mentadent line. Next slide, please. This is my vice. I was appointed District 2 trustee to fill a vacancy by then President Virginia Woodward in 1991, and then elected to 2 additional terms. So I spent 5.5 years on the board. This was my president-elect year, and you see me with Maria McKenzie, who was president that year, on the left, Stanley Peck, our executive director, and then I am on the right. We traveled together. This picture was taken after hours when we were meeting with the Canadian Dental Hygienists Association leaders in Ontario. And we also had some fun times together. I think this was the year that it was snowing. We were not dressed properly, and we were walking along the sidewalk, and all of a sudden Stan was talking to me, and all of a sudden he looked over at me, and I had fallen out of my boots into the snow. That was very, very embarrassing. I was glad that there weren't a lot of other people on the sidewalk. But anyway, it was a pleasure to work with both of those individuals. Next, please. And here we are. Connecticut State Representative Vicki Nardello took time from her busy schedule to travel to New Orleans. This is before we ate the ice cream, to install me as ADHA president. Vicki has been another mentor, particularly where legislative matters were concerned, and she makes the best biscotti, always available for campaign workers. Next. And there I am, my presidential year. My theme for the year was Set Sail for Success. And this was the first time that I sat at that desk in the president's office on the 34th floor of 444 North Michigan Avenue. I sat at the desk. I looked around and looked out of that window and looked at the skyline and thought, wow, not bad for a little country bumpkin from Old Mystic. It was truly an honor, an awesome honor to serve ADHA, and also a really big responsibility. I believe the ADHA staff numbered 26 at that time. Email was yet to be used. As many as 100 pages would roll off my fax machine at home daily from central office. Communication by written or typed letters and phone calls. What a difference technology has made in the ensuing years. Next. Back in those years, the ADHA President's Reception was always a big deal. It was a semi-formal gala with a receiving line. My friends from the Oral-B Braun Company sponsored mine, bringing in professional actors from the Love Boat with nautical decorations and ice sculptures, truly awesome. And you can see that the man in the black tux is my husband and not one of the Love Boat crew, and then I'm over on the right toward the back. And that was a wonderful, wonderful evening. And then to top that presidential year off, the President's Luncheon on the right with the SS Success created by all my District 2 attendees as part of a hilarious skit with Dinah Auger as MC. And in the picture there, on the left is Sue Barnard from New Jersey, Carol Martin, Pennsylvania, Lisa Marie Rahusin from Connecticut is the second in from the right, and then Anita Lancey from Pennsylvania. Next, please. And there I am. One highlight of my presidential year was being invited to the White House. I was in Chicago in February for the February board meeting. The executive director called me into his office and said, "Bev, you're not going home today." I said, "I'm not. Where am I going?" He said, "You're going to the White House. You just had an invitation come through from the social office." And he said, "Do you have clothing that's suitable to wear to this event that you're going to?" And I said, "Yes, I do." So I decided, well, I better call home and let Bob know I'm not coming home. So I called Bob, and I said to him, "I'm just calling to let you know I'm not coming home tonight." He said, "What do you mean you're not coming home tonight? Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to the White House for ADHA." And he said to me after an expletive, "Well, I guess if you stay out of the Oval Office, you'll be okay." So that was Bob. So the picture is actually taken in the Red Room of the White House. I'm going through the receiving line. I met President Clinton, who had a nice firm handshake, said something like, "So happy to meet you, and thank you for your association's participation." I proceeded down the line, and one of it might have been the officer that you see between us, the female military officer, came to me and said, "Mrs. Clinton has just joined the president. Would you like to go back through the line and meet her?" And so I did. Two things that I remember. Bill Clinton's eyes were the bluest eyes I have ever seen. Made me wonder if he had blue contacts there. When I looked at Hillary Clinton, I thought, wow, if I had the makeup artist that she uses, I could look pretty good too. But I did get to shake her hand and, just how do you do sort of thing. At the meeting itself or event, President Clinton officially announced the CHIP Medicaid outreach program and the 1-877 Kids Now toll-free number that provided the caller with the nearest location for access to medical dental health for children. ADHA participated by collaborating with a corporation to have ADHA 1-877 Kids Now imprinted on toothbrushes. The toothbrushes were distributed to school children in areas of greatest need. ADHA was acknowledged nationally for its efforts to increase access to oral health care for children. We were the only oral health care organization to participate, and I was very proud of that. The head of ADHA's governmental division had a friend who was employed in the White House social office, found out what I was wearing that day, and secured this photo. At that time, still photos would be taken of every person who went through a receiving line with the president, Mrs. Clinton. And this photo was presented to me as I presided over my last ADHA Board of Trustees meeting. My heart was truly warmed by the staff's thoughtfulness. And the picture is always on the wall in my kitchen. It's been there ever since. I actually had to dust the back of it because I had everything written on the back of the frame. So I'm quite proud of that. Next picture, please. And now we have students. On the left, I am at Phone School of Dental Hygiene with two students, and they are the two SADA officers, and I believe that was 1999. And on the right, I am I'm at the New Mexico Dental Hygienists Association's annual meeting, but I'm visiting with students and instructors from El Paso Community College. One high priority for me as president was to highlight dental hygiene students, make them really feel they were an integral part of ADHA. As I travel the USA, I planned ahead, locating the dental hygiene program nearest to the place I'd be. I would invite myself to visit and arrive a day before my scheduled constituent visit and spend time with the students. I visited a total of, I believe, 23 schools total that year. The occasional comment received in the past 20-plus years from students who've become valuable members and some leaders pleases me. Very often I would hear, "I remember you. You came to our school." Next slide, please. This is the one I was looking for. You see my good friend Esther Wilkins on the left at an ADHA meeting. I met her in the around 1970, when a friend and I went to Tufts Dental for 2 Saturdays for a perio course that she was giving. I met her at that time, and after introducing myself to her and calling her Dr. Wilkins, and she said, no, call me Esther. From then on, it was Esther. And on the right, you see a photograph of, on the left, Frances Dolan, who was the director of phones back in the 50s. I'm not sure who that is in the center, but it's, again, Esther on the right side. And I have to flip back to my notes here. This is what I wanted to tell you about. And I had written it down so I wouldn't forget it. It was in the early 2000s, I was asked if I could hostess a reception at my home for Rhode Island and Connecticut Forsyth alumni. We were promoting support for the Esther M. Wilkins Forsyth Dental Hygiene Clinic, dedicated in August 29, 2005, at the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. I'm proud to have sponsored one of the student operatories. That evening, in awe of the fact that the international dental hygiene icon had visited our home, insisted on helping me arrange cookies on a silver platter, and hugged my husband goodbye to boot. Wow, what a memory. Another contribution to Forsyth that I'm very proud of is during my 50th class reunion, we initiated the formation of the Forsyth Class of 1959 Scholarship, the only class name scholarship at the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. And I have been administering that venture along with a staff member at the University, the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. And I'm very proud of that. Next slide, please. And my Forsyth mentor, there we have Barbara Schultz. Barbara was a young instructor when I was at Forsyth, and she was Miss Schultz. As long as we were students. As soon as we graduated, it was Call Me Barbara. She was a down-to-earth mentor and friend who traveled to San Diego to speak and bring greetings from my Forsyth classmates. She had an envelope of about 50 handwritten cards and letters during my presidential year in San Diego. I was forever grateful to have all of those good wishes with me as I was finishing out my presidential year. Next slide, please. And here's Lynn Ironside. Lynn Ironside was the CDHA spark plug who got me moving, got me involved in CDHA. She is the one who called and asked me, could I help start the Eastern component. We became very close friends. Lynn moved to Oregon, but each year at ADHA annual session, if we were both in attendance, we would try to get together and visit. Next slide, please. And here we are, Masha, one of my a mentee and a mentor and friend with my husband, Bob. We are at the 100th anniversary celebration for Forsyth School for Dental Hygienists, and also honoring Esther Wilkins, who was nearly 100 at that point in time. Masha has been a wonderful co-worker, association volunteer, leader, and friend forever. Next slide, please. Here we have CDHA icons. On the left, the late Pauline Sampieri, who also served as Speaker of the House of ADHA for two terms, I believe, and that was back in the days when their supporters could give really big campaign parties. And we sure had a good time bringing home the bacon for Pauline. For I think she served two two-year terms. In the center is Alice Trino, another icon. All three of these women are past presidents of CDHA. Alice became another dear friend and mentor. And to the right, the late Carol Ondeck. What can we say? No one could dress up a table for a luncheon or dinner like Carol Ondeck. There were always little star flakes around and candles, and she just was wonderful at doing that. And the two of these women who have passed are sorely missed. The next slide, please. My husband accompanied me on just one of my ADHA trips, and that was to Albuquerque, New Mexico in October of 1998. As you can see, it was the time that the annual Albuquerque Hot Air Balloon Festival was in session. The reason he came is to visit with his aunt. We actually stayed with his aunt, and he would be with Aunt Chick while I was busy with my professional meetings. The hygienists, some of the hygienists who knew me in New Mexico, knew that I really wanted to go for a hot air balloon ride, and their gift to me was passage for a hot air balloon ride. And then, of course, we purchased a ticket for Bob, and we did this together. We went on a 16-passenger balloon, the largest in the Eastern Hemisphere at the time. The wife of the balloonist was a dental hygienist. ADHA treasurer Jamie Moniz was planning to take her parents up the day after we went, but she was able to move their reservation back a day to go with us on Sunday. As we headed to the airport on Monday, Aunt Chick expressed concern the balloons were heading toward the airport where they weren't supposed to be. Upon arrival home in Connecticut, we learned that our balloon had gone into the electrical wires, crashed. All passengers survived, but there were a few non-life-threatening injuries. What a blessing that Jamie and her parents came the day before with us. It's just one of those God things, I call them. And we had a very smooth ride. It was wonderful, aside from the fact that 16 people are packed in like sardines, and you hope everybody used their mouthwash and took a shower in the morning. We landed smoothly, but we had someone call over the fence to us that we were on a state nature preserve and we couldn't land there. So the pilot fired up the balloon again, and we went over the fence or over the wall to be in a safe time. It was really a wonderful, wonderful experience. I would have gone up again with that same pilot because truly this was one of nature's freaks with the wind shear that caused the balloons to be where they weren't supposed to be. And Bob and I were most appreciative to be able to do this. The next picture, please. This is my 1998-99 ADHA Board of Trustees. They were a wonderful group. We had a variety of opinions and ideas that circulated throughout the group. And from day one, my primary goal was to get the whole group working together very well so that we could accomplish the goals that we had set up for the year. It was custom at that time for the board to take the outgoing president to dinner the night before the annual session started. We had a board meeting that day. We had a wonderful dinner. We were in San Diego, and each of the members of my board, knowing that I loved to cook, presented me with a cookbook from their part of the country. So I'm looking over at the shelf here in my little home office. I have 1.5 shelves full of these wonderful, wonderful cookbooks, and I still don't think I'm going to live long enough to be able to try them all. Currently, I'm reading J.B. West, who was the chief usher at the White House, 1941 to 1969 book, entitled Upstairs at the White House. His description of Eleanor Roosevelt's working style rang a bell with me looking back at my life. He said Mrs. Roosevelt's life was filled with planned, purposeful activity, her motion directed towards specific goals. She was propelled by dedication. At the conclusion of my presidential year, I was invited to serve on the board of directors of the newly formed National Museum of Dentistry at the University of Maryland by another ADHA icon, the late Wilma Motley, who was the journal editor, historian, and authored the book, The History of the American Dental Hygienists Association, 1923 to 1982. This was not an association involvement assignment or a funded position. I paid all my own expenses traveling to Baltimore, a wonderful experience learning how a museum operates. I was involved for 6 years, if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, the University of Maryland changed presidents, and the university discontinued funding. So the museum was unable to achieve its goal and to accumulate the funding needed to become self-standing. The museum is now incorporated as part of a dental school, and to my knowledge has not expanded in recent years. I continued working part-time in 2 offices, another 15 years at the original one, to make a total of 30 years, 33 years worth of Saturday mornings in another office. How fortunate I was to continue treating patients to age 76, retiring 5 years ago. Prior to retiring, I also volunteered in a 3rd grade class at the local elementary school, a half a day a week. I think I did that for 6 or 7 years. My oldest granddaughter recruited me, came home from school in tears and said, Nana, can you come over? I need to talk to you. And I did, and she said, Mommy is now going to work in the school cafeteria, and she can't help in my classroom anymore. And I thought, oh, I just don't need another thing on my plate. But to her I said, oh, that sounds like so much fun. Of course I'll do it. The children in the class ended up calling me Nana rather than remembering my name, and I had a wonderful half day each Wednesday or Thursday for I think it was 7 years that I did that. If I had worked exclusively at clinical hygiene and not been so involved in other pursuits and association leadership positions, I wonder if I'd feel the thankfulness I feel for a truly wonderful, rewarding career. Next, please. And this is my casual family celebrating my 80th birthday party. My older son, Randy, on the right, and my sister-in-law, Bob's sister, executed a party for, I think there were 80 people there. My sister-in-law prepared all the food, and Randy said he's good at acquiring help. Friends of his were bartenders and sent out all the invitations, and it was just a wonderful event of family, and people, close friends, didn't believe how many cousins I had, but Dinah could attest to that, who attended. My daughter-in-law is on the left in the back, Rosalind, and our two granddaughters. In the middle is Alexa. Alexa is 20 now, and she is a hairstylist. And on the right is Callie. Callie is in her first semester at the University of Virginia's School of Architecture, and her dad and sister should be arriving in Blacksburg right about now to bring her home for Thanksgiving, and then she'll be working online until the beginning of the next semester from home. My family's support all these years has been so great, especially my husband. I particularly remember one incident when I flew home, had to repack and fly out again the next morning, and there was Bob assisting me by polishing my black leather shoes and silver jewelry. He is truly a gem. And the last, please. It's coming, and it's Home Sweet Home. Well, while Bernice is working on that, I will tell you that when we were married, we moved into a circa 1786 home that was in terrible, terrible shape, but we could afford the down payment for it. And it took 30 years to restore. Fortunately, my father-in-law was a carpenter and restorer of old homes, so he was the brains, my husband Bob was the brawn, and I provided refreshments and cleaned up. The house was, as they jacked the house up one side at a time and replaced rotted wood beams. They opened up the fireplaces, built a new brick chimney to match the original, and after removing the scaffolding, they realized it was out of proportion, so they took it apart and started all over again. And we were very pleased to be asked in 1991 for the house to be included on a tour of historic homes in Old Mystic.
Yeah, Beverly, I'm sorry, but we don't have the picture of the house.
You don't have the picture of the house. That's fine. Well, it was a two-family colonial house, and the picture I sent was one with about 2 feet of snow. And my comment is going to be, I hope it didn't look like this year. In finishing, as I live each day, may I do my part to make one difference, to touch one heart, and through each day may it be my goal to encourage one mind and inspire one soul. God bless. If anybody has questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Thank you so much, Beverly, for sharing and everything.
That was beautiful.
So everybody can unmute, and if you'd like to join, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you. Always very,
Such a career.
what a career. Yeah.
Yes, I have been truly blessed. And now I'm just happy when my husband and I awake each morning and our feet are on the right side of the grass. I'm now saying, I used to say I wish I were 50 again, then it became 60, and now I'm saying I wish I were 70 again.
What a career.
Thank you for sharing all that with us, Bev. That was
Oh, you're
just
welcome,
amazing.
Crystal.
Thank you.
Lots of memories and faces I haven't seen for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was difficult to select. I have literally hundreds of pictures of dental hygiene activities, but I became callous, and they're in their envelopes in boxes, along with, I probably have a total of about 25 albums that are full.
Bev, I have to share with you how impressed I was when I first came to your office. I knew you were president of CDHA, and Elaine Schaefer had been a president, and I was just awestruck that I would be working alongside of you. It was an amazing opportunity, and I never, ever forget that.
Thank you, Marcia. You were the best.
Thank you.
And the one story I have is that when I was we were up at one of the nutmegs, and I had come to the microphone and talked about us seasoned hygienists. And Beverly followed later on to say, we were talking about, she got up to the microphone and looked straight at me and said, "You're talking about seasoned hygienists." Well, I'm as seasoned as you can get. And we all cracked up.
And I think of you as always being encouraging. Every time I said, "Oh, I don't know if I can get through this," you said, "Oh, you're going to just do just fine. You're just going to do fine."
Well,
Thank you.
that's the way we all help each other and work together, and as a team, accomplish much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for
Thank
sharing.
you.
And I'm going to stop recording now, and I have everybody's names written down. And